On the malicious chessboard, the king chess spirit manifested as he chased Lin Feng. Lin Feng glanced behind him to find the king right on his tail. And as the king tried to suppress Lin Feng with an overwhelming pressure, reaching for him, Lin Feng took a stance and unsheathed his sword, and as he slashed the king's surging hand, deflecting it, the hand smashed the ground, releasing a massive shockwave. Lin Feng gritted his teeth in frustration, annoyed about how strong the king was. But unbeknownst to him, a pawn chess piece creeps closer. It smashed Lin Feng's back, and while in the air, its chess spirit tried to pierce him with a spear. Lin Feng saw this and evades the attack, and as he lands, he turns to the pawn, intending to smash it into pieces. At that moment, a knight chess spirit appeared beside him, causing Lin Feng to unsheath his S-class weapon, horse slashing sword. He swung the sword with his full might, but unfortunately for Lin Feng, the knight broke his precious sword with its mouth. Seeing his broken sword in the knight's mouth, Lin Feng was shocked and started bitching about it. The malicious chessboard had countless vengeful spirits who had died on this very chessboard and got their souls devoured by the chess pieces. They are forever confined in this place. The cycle keeps repeating and the battle continues endlessly until the chessboard is defeated. These chess pieces have devoured countless hunters' vengeful souls after their tragic deaths. They are far stronger than an S-class. Being clearly outnumbered and outmatched prompted Lin Feng to find a way to escape immediately. So with this thought on his mind, Lin Feng activated his flight skill, and immediately, bright wings appeared on his back as he lifts off in the air, intending to fly away as fast as he could. But when Lin Feng had a brief moment of respite, he changed his mind and decided to observe the board from above. Suddenly, a bright violet glow prompted him to look up. And as he did with a cold sweat visibly highlighting how fucked he was, Lin Feng flinched, shocked to see the queen chess spirit, huge and with her hand in the air. The queen didn't wait for any invitation to bitch slap the living daylight out of him. Hard. Lin Feng made a crush landing, dusting the entire area of the chessboard he fell on. And as the dust settles, Lin Feng lay there, unable to move as he coughs repeatedly. Opening his eyes, Lin Feng was staring at the king's huge spirit head staring back at him. Moments later, the queen joined in, and as both chess spirits towered him with their suppressive aura, Lin Feng knew in that moment, he fucked up. Again, the king reached for Lin Feng, and as he did, a hand also reached for his head as well. This hand, with its long nails, covered his entire head, and with a light squeeze, the king's entire chest body crumbles onto the ground, like a house of cards. Lin Feng covered his head with his hands as pieces of the crumbling body fell around him. He peeked in between his hands and saw what was going on. Like all chessboards, the defeat of the king placed the game in a checkmate, and this rendered all the pieces left sitting duck as Bai Chi Feng, with his fast movements, destroyed all of them within a few seconds. Wondering who it was, Gao Hu and Lu Xiaoke rushed towards Lin Feng, asking if he was alright. And as they helped him on his feet, Lin Feng asked what they were doing here. Gao Hu replied that they were worried about him, so Bai Chi Feng suggested that they follow him, and in case he encountered any danger, they will be there to help. Curious, Lu Xiaoke questioned Lin Feng why he suddenly tried to challenge this dungeon by himself, when he told everybody that he was going to just scout ahead. Lu Xiaoke was thankful that Bai Chi Feng suggested they tail their young master. Hearing Bai Qingfeng's name, Lin Feng freaked out, knowing that he was the one who saved his ass. Then, with an ungrateful demeanor, Lin Feng turned to Bai Chi Feng, realizing that by defeating the dungeon alone granted Bai Chi Feng the purification crystal. Meanwhile, Bai Chi Feng, with a nonchalant expression, noticed that the souls trapped in the chess pieces he destroyed began to gather around him. And as they did, they present him the purification crystal as a form of their gratitude for freeing them. Bai Chi Feng took the purification crystal, and as he stared at it, he wondered why these souls decided to give him this rare material knowing full well he was the Demon King. Lin Feng watched the entire scene, cursing loudly in his thoughts about this particular turn of events being the worst-case scenario. Why in the devil's name did the purification crystal fall into Bai Qingfeng's hands? It's like this novel was going out of its way to teach me a lesson, Lin Feng thought. Bai Chi Feng turned to face Lin Feng, and for a few seconds, he said nothing. He just watched Lin Feng's facial expression as he stared at the purification crystal with envy. Bai Qingfeng's expression suddenly turned sinister, and as he asked Lin Feng if he wanted the purification crystal, he laughed inwardly at how Lin Feng was incapable of hiding his thoughts and desires at the current situation. Bai Chi Feng gave Lin Feng no chance to answer, and said that regardless of his answer, the purification crystal was his, and he had no intention of giving it to him. Although Bai Qifeng had no idea what Lin Feng's goal was, but risking his life for this rare material meant that whatever it was, it must be good, so no dice in handing it over to him. Gao Hu, oblivious and clueless about reading the room, praised Bai Qifeng of being here with them, and suggested they should work as a team as they proceed forward. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was fuming, thinking that he couldn't lower himself to fight with Bai Qifeng for the fragment with Gao Hu and Lu Xiaoke here. And since they witnessed Bai Qifeng being the one who obtained it, he had no way of manipulating the situation to get it. Then, his main character syndrome kicked in, thinking that he didn't need Bai Qifeng's help in the first place. If he had a little more time before Bai Qifeng showed up, he was 100% positive that he could defeat the Demon King alone. So with that thought, Lin Feng shouts loudly like a banshee in labor, saying that he didn't need anybody worrying about him. They better go back quickly while he continues to scout ahead by himself. So with that, Lin Feng began to flee the area as his two followers shouts and worry. Lin Feng thought that even though he couldn't get the purification crystal, he can still gather the remaining materials, and with that, he could make a semi-finished purification potion. The effect wouldn't be good as the complete version, but it was enough to get the job done. Bai Qifeng remained silent and observed the entire scene that just unfolded. Then, as a smile crept on his lips, he thought that the more Lin Feng tried to hide whatever he wants to do, the more he intend to get to every facet of what he's hiding and expose him of having ulterior motives. Knowing this, Bai Qifeng intend on seeing what exactly the lousy wanker plan on doing. So by extension, he plans on doing whatever Lin Feng is doing. A while later, at another S-Class dungeon, the Deadbones Lake, Lin Feng entered this dungeon to find it already raided with Bai Qifeng holding the reward, another rare material called the Three Flames Pill. He teased Lin Feng for arriving late to the party. Hearing this, Lin Feng got angry, but reined in his anger and decided to leave immediately for the other materials left. But like an unwanted shadow, Lin Feng encountered Bai Qifeng again in the next dungeon, an A-Class dungeon, Bone Cliff with the reward of a rare material, Bone Dragon Scale. Then the last one also, an S-Class dungeon, Wind Whistle Abyss with a rare material, the Peerless Water. At that point, Lin Feng lost it, fuming like a demon. He couldn't obtain a single rare material because Bai Qifeng took them all. On the other hand, Gao Hu just watched Lin Feng and was at a complete loss of words as to why his young master is so adamant on Bai Qifeng's concern for him. From his perspective, Bai Qifeng is just worried and looking out for him. Holding the rare materials in his hands, Bai Qifeng found it weird that Lin Feng was trying to get rid of them just to obtain these materials. Although, these materials might be rare and valuable, but he knows Lin Feng didn't look like someone who wasn't short on money. What does he really need this for? As Bai Qifeng pondered on this issue, Lu Xiaoke approached him, requesting that Bai Qifeng help them persuade Lin Feng that they are just worried about him. But upon seeing all the materials together, Lu Xiaoke's eyes shot up as he immediately knew what they were. They were the materials he had desperately been looking for all these years. So like a child excited about opening his Christmas presents, he asked Bai Qifeng if he could have a look. Refine. Combine. Moments later, Bai Qifeng was done preparing the S-Class purification potion. As he stared at the bottle in his hand, uninterested and indifferent, due to the fact that it had less to no value to him, Lu Xiaoke approached him, still pleading for his help. However, he stopped mid-sentence, shocked. He questioned loudly if what Bai Qifeng was holding was the legendary S-Class purification potion. The potion he'd been asking high-class alchemists to make for him. However, none had been able to do it. Bai Qifeng noticed Lu Xiaoke's giddy attitude and asked if he really needs it. Without waiting for a reply, he tossed the bottle in Lu Xiaoke's direction, saying that he had no use for it. However, if he, on the other hand, needs it that badly, he can have it. Hearing this, Lu Xiaoke started sweating bullets, his eyes filled with excitement and wonder, holding the legendary S-Class purification potion in absolute disbelief, as if he had found the Holy Grail. Immediately after such mixed emotions stirred up inside him, he shouted that the legendary S-Class purification potion was really a precious item, worth over tens of thousands, and Bai Qifeng was leisurely handing it over to him just like that, without any form of payment. Tears began to stream down his cheeks as his world did an immediate 180. With this, he will be able to completely purify the poison that has accumulated in his body over all these years. Suddenly, to Bai Qifeng's complete horror, then annoyance, Lu Xiaoke, in tears and excitement, hugged Bai Qifeng's leg, commenting on how Bai Qifeng was indeed a good person. He continued by pledging his loyalty that from this moment forth, he will be his most loyal follower. Hearing this, Bai Qifeng shouted for Lu Xiaoke to get away from him. How can he become so passionate so suddenly over just an S-class potion? He was being so ignorant. Hearing this, Lu Xiaoke just stared at Bai Qifeng admirably, then continued his glorification session, saying that Bai Qifeng was a selfless person. He didn't even ask him to pay him back. He will definitely follow Bai Qifeng no matter what. Bai Qifeng felt disgusted and embarrassed by Lu Xiaoke's clinging behavior. After all, he was the Demon King. Why in the devil's name had he gained another human follower, as if one wasn't enough? This situation was so annoying, it was like the heavens was having a laugh at his expense. Meanwhile, Lin Feng watched the entire scene, fuming, veins bulging out on his face as he gritted his teeth in frustration. Cursing, he knew that Bai Qifeng had inadvertently reined Lu Xiaoke in. And as Gao Hu tried unsuccessfully to calm his young master, Bai Qifeng sensed Lu Feng's murderous aura aimed towards him. Turning his head slightly, he found it weird that Lin Feng's expression had suddenly turned homicidal. After all he did was give Lu Xiaoke the purification potion. Why was this aura aimed towards him? Also, the materials he planned on gathering happened to be for the potion Lu Xiaoke had been looking for all these years. Knowing all this, it suddenly dawned on him that Lin Feng was trying to win Lu Xiaoke over to his side with the potion, but due to his interference, he inadvertently beat him to it. After realizing this, Bai Qifeng thought of it some more, but the more he did, the more plausible it sounded. As he became convinced, he also wondered how Lin Feng knew about the locations of the materials, and he still can't understand how Lin Feng was so sure about the real Bai Qifeng being dead. Knowing he couldn't find a solution to his current dilemma, Bai Qifeng realized that he could do nothing other than wait until Liya brings back the item that could restore souls. With that, he could get the answers he needed. At that moment, Lin Feng calmed himself, then sighed heavily, turned around, and told everyone that they should return back to the town nearby and rest. They will wait until Liya and Tian return before they head out to find the divine item. Hearing this made Gao Hu happy, his smile showing his approval of his young master's decision. Meanwhile, Bai Qifeng just watched Lin Feng's retreating figure without uttering a word. On the way, Lin Feng could no longer keep his calm. He was at his limit. Bai Qifeng's consistent ruining of his plans needed to stop, and he will make sure of it. A while later, in a dimly lit night under the full moon, at a hotel, in front of Lin Feng was Gao Hu, kneeling and paying his respect to his young master. Without wasting any words, Lin Feng ordered Gao Hu to go kill Bai Qifeng. Hearing this surprised Gao Hu greatly. He began to ask why his young master was requesting this, since Bai Qifeng had saved him numerous times in the past, and on top of that, Bai Qifeng was a good person. However, Lin Feng had already decided, his words firm and devoid of any emotion. He instructed Gao Hu to just follow his orders and stop tattling too much about it. After all, he was his servant, a loyal one at that. Gao Hu had been by his side since he was young. Was he going to refuse his orders now? Again, Gao Hu replied, saying Bai Qifeng's power was unfathomable. He was really not his match. However, it seems Lin Feng had already thought of everything. He told Gao Hu to use the forbidden technique to temporarily raise his class to a legendary SS class for a brief period. Hearing this, Gao Hu, visibly worried, replied that that technique would cause his lifespan to decrease. His family has been serving Lin Feng's family for generations, and ever since Lin Feng was young, he promised to treat Gao Hu like family. So what? Does the loyalty Gao Hu swore to him not count at all? Isn't he aware that he, Lin Feng, was destined for greatness? He was going to be the hero who obtains the sealing item. Carrying humanity's future on his back, shouldn't his loyal servant also make a little sacrifice for humanity's future too? Lin Feng questioned Gao Hu with a stern face. Hearing this, Gao Hu was visibly distressed, sweating profusely, unable to form a sentence. However, seeing his young master's unwavering stance on the matter, Gao Hu gave in and replied that he understood. He will willingly make this sacrifice, not for the sake of humanity, but to fulfill the oath he swore to Lin Feng. Lin Feng, on the other hand, just listened quietly, wondering why Gao Hu was spouting so much nonsense. A while later, at the town's garden, Bai Qifeng was leisurely wandering in the garden, admiring the scenery under the night sky. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual at the fountain. Moments later, a massive ice shard was aimed towards him, to which he dodged easily to the side. As he made a sturdy landing, he noticed the frozen water and wondered who was trying to assassinate him. At that moment, multiple massive ice shards formed from the fountain in an instant, and in the night sky, pieces of it broke out and was directed towards him. Seeing the entire fountain frozen in an instant, Bai Chi-feng immediately knew that it was an SS-class awakener, and from the looks of it, the individual is a human expert. He was curious, wondering when he offended such a person. Immediately after, the rest of the ice broke, encasing Bai Chi-feng in an ice prison. Walking into the scene was Gaohu, who watched everything with a gloomy expression, veins bulging out around his red eyes to his forehead. Gaohu was using his SS-class forbidden technique currently consuming his lifespan. He turned his head slightly, noticing Bai Chi-feng breaking out of his ice prison in a flash. And as he did, an ice shard nicked underneath his eye. Seeing this, Bai Chi-feng touched the spot, truly amazed, his expression morphing into something creepy and devilish. As his expression intensified, showing all his white teeth, he commented excitedly that Gaohu was the first human to have ever injured him. And given that no human, not even the light of humanity, Lin Shao, was able to do it, implied that this moment should be the greatest achievement in of itself for humanity. So as both parties watch each other, Bai Chi-feng grinned mockingly as he continued that although he might be the first human to do this, it could only get him so far. On his current health and magic stats, he noticed that a point was deducted from his health. However, his magic was intact. Forming a seal with his hand, Gaohu stated that due to his respect for him, he wouldn't let Bai Chi-feng suffer too much. He will end him in one attack. Hearing this, Bai Chi-feng responded that he happened to want to have a look at an SS-class expert's capabilities, so he should give it his best shot. So with that said, the blood streaming down Bai Chi-feng's cheek suddenly took the form of a snowflake, then swiftly aimed for his neck, who moved his head backward and slightly to the side at the same time. Seeing this made Bai Chi-feng wonder that if his blood that leaked out can freeze up and be manipulated like what happened just now meant that Gaohu can control any form of liquids. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a sudden cold feeling. In pain, Bai Chi-feng grabbed his chest tightly, feeling like all of his blood was freezing up. At that moment, Gaohu calmly confirmed his suspicion about being able to control all kinds of liquids, including the blood inside a human's body. However, he noticed something odd. Bai Chi-feng's blood seemed different from normal, and due to this, he couldn't control it. Realizing this, Gaohu decided to change his strategy. He roars loudly as his body was suddenly engulfed in a dark bluish aura. Immediately after this, the dark clouds in the night sky became heavy, and several thunders and lightning eruptions soon followed as it suddenly began to rain. Watching the entire scene made Bai Chi-feng question himself if the vigorous black-colored stuff he was witnessing was demonic mana. Shocked and a bit annoyed, he continued that a human such as Gaohu dares to use a demon's mana. Was he not afraid of going berserk? However, Gaohu paid no thoughts to Bai Chi-feng's words and loudly shouted that what he's doing was for his young master, for the Lin family's glory. And with that, the rain and the lightning increased and intensified, prompting Bai Chi-feng to stare up in annoyance. He was being attacked with demonic mana and the irony did not go unnoticed. Exhausting his entire life force, Gaohu went all out as his hands significantly radiated with demonic mana. Then, the rain suddenly halted mid-air, took a different shape, as these shapes became several water blades and approached Bai Chi-feng in all directions. The blades cut through his body without any coordination or reservation, and as it did, Gaohu screamed with all his might, intending to end this encounter with a loud bang. A huge downpour of the rain together with the lightning descended on Bai Chi-feng, striking him directly with a huge explosion, causing a massive shockwave which turned the entire garden into an ice land. As everything settles, Gaohu collapsed on the ground, feeling drained as he shook uncontrollably. He sighed heavily, commenting that it was finally over. However, you will also die soon because he feels his lifespan had been completely depleted. As he was wallowing in pain, he heard the sound of footsteps approaching, prompting him to look up. And as he did, he was shocked to see Bai Chi-feng standing directly in front of his crouching form. In disbelief, Gaohu asked incongruously how this was possible. With a teasing smile, Bai Chi-feng replied that Gaohu was right. The fight was indeed over. However, what he didn't know was that the fight was already over before it even started. Gaohu had just been dilly-dallying this entire time. On his stats window, it shows that Gaohu's efforts were only able to deal 8,716,279 of damage to Bai Chi-feng's health, leaving 9,991,283,720 out of 9,999,999,999. His magic stats, however, was still intact, signifying that he never intended of defending himself or fighting back. Seeing his health reduced to this extent, Bai Chi-feng praised Gaohu, commenting that he was quite amazing for achieving such a feat. However, it actually wasn't that much now that he thought about it. So with that said, the surrounding air suddenly turned frightening as Bai Qingfeng's facial expression turns dark, commenting that since Gaohu was done with his performance, it was his turn. Scared shitless, Gaohu continued to just stare at Bai Qifeng as his hand approached his face. He then gave a sinister smile, enjoying the terrified expression on Gaohu's face. Knowing that he wouldn't live long anyway, Gaohu resigned with a gloomy demeanor, commenting that Bai Qifeng should just kill him since his life was now meaningless anyway. Inwardly, he thought of how it was his long-cherished wish to sacrifice for the Lin family. Although he didn't think his sacrifice would be in this way, it was too late to do anything about it. Hearing this, Bai Qifeng replied that Gaohu didn't need him to do anything. He would soon die from the backlash. Gaohu didn't overestimate his abilities and even spent his life to activate the forbidden technique. Nearing his end, Gaohu requested that Bai Qifeng should give him an honorable death even though he was not in the position to request such an act from him. He wanted to die with his dignity as a warrior and not someone who wither away without being able to even fulfill his duties. However, Gaohu was surprised. His eyes widened in shock as his vitality slowly increased, and with that his health was being restored to its previous state. With a loud shout, Gaohu, still in a daze, asked in disbelief if Bai Qifeng was really healing him. How can he be really so selfless? After all, he tried to kill him just now. Hearing this, Bai Qifeng answered Gaohu that he hadn't given permission to die. However, he thought that although he could have done nothing and let Gaohu die, the result will cause some chaos in the team, and he didn't want that kind of trouble at the moment, especially not for an insignificant pest like Gaohu. He didn't want his goal to be sidetracked by such a trivial matter. So with that thought, Bai Qifeng, with all the smile he can muster, continued that he was touched by Gaohu's loyalty. Although it's obviously to a fault, he admired people such as him. Inwardly, Bai Qifeng was impressed with his corny attitude. He thought of how he was making everything he was saying on the fly, giving reasons that suit the situation, because his goal was not to kill one or two humans, masters, or loyal dogs, but to destroy the sealed artifact and annihilate every human in the world. He needs to think of the bigger picture and not lose his goal for small matters such as this. Also, he had a sneaky guest to impress. Behind him was the guest, Leah, who was hiding behind a tree, watching the entire scene. She thought of how she wasn't wrong about Bai Qifeng. He was really a good, kind, and gentle person. This was the first time she had seen such a man, strong and upright. Meanwhile, Bai Qifeng was in all smiles, impressed with himself. After all, his target was still watching everything, so he needed to raise his act to an Oscar-worthy performance. So with that, Bai Qifeng extended his hand and offered a shocked Gaohu some assistance, commenting on how he should be okay after some rest. And if he was worried about not being able to explain to his young master, he was willing to act with him and pretend that he was injured by him or something like that. Hearing this, Gaohu was speechless. He couldn't believe his ears. Such a forgiving, strong, upright, and selfless person truly exists. Embarrassed to want to harm such a person, Gaohu apologized, replying that he couldn't repay such kindness. And with that, Gaohu got up and left. Watching Gaohu's disappearing figure, Bai Qifeng, still smiling, thought of how with Gaohu taken care of, it was time for the next one. However, he was concerned whether he acted too powerful just now. Will it arouse human suspicion? Unsure of Lia's suspicion, Bai Qifeng suddenly crouched down, again, grabbing his chest, clearly in pain. He acted as if he was having a heart attack. Seeing this, Leah, right on cue, rushed to his aid. She loudly called out Bai Qingfeng's name in worry. At his side, she crouched down beside a visibly shaken Bai Qifeng, asking if he was okay. What was wrong with him? However, unbeknownst to Leah, Bai Qifeng was pleased hearing this. He thought of how he managed to fool her, and also arouse her concern for him to such a degree. Leah helped him to his feet, and commented on how she thought Bai Qifeng could block an SS-level attack without taking any damage. He must have been holding on just now, wasn't he? Hearing this, Bai Qifeng, smirking inwardly, replied her by asking what she was doing there in the garden. Has she got the potion that can restore his soul? Yes, I got it. No one has as much financial resources as my family, so I bought the potion at a high price. Leah answered with concern and doubt written all over her face. She always felt that drugging Lin Feng showed that she didn't trust him. Moreover, if Lin Feng's soul has not been replaced, taking medicine randomly will cause harm to his body. Sensing her hesitation, Bai Qifeng knew that she needed a little nudge to proceed with the intended plan, so without hesitation, he placed his hand delicately on Lia's cheek, expressing his concern about her safety, creating a sense of urgency. Bai Qifeng told Liu that soul which had hijacked Lin Feng's body might also be coming for her. After all, she was so beautiful that any man, woman, or demon would be moved when they see her. Liu, surprised by the sudden show of affection, blushed furiously as she excitedly asked Bai Qifeng if he really thought she was beautiful. She thought of how countless men have said flattering words to her, but Bai Qifeng is the only one who had said it without making it feel disgusting or flattering at all. At this moment, Liu was completely rizzed up by Bai Qingfeng's words. However, Bai Qingfeng's expression suddenly turned gloomy. He told her that although he knows that Lin Feng was engaged to her, he is still very worried about her. And the thought of her getting hurt, especially her soul, is too much for him to bear. Hearing this, Liu's attention drew on the potion in her hand. Understanding, she thanked Bai Qifeng for his concern. With her doubts cleared, she quickly rushed away, saying that she will definitely use the potion to help Lin Feng. Bai Qifeng replied after her that he was at ease hearing this. However, looking at the naive Liu hurriedly on her way to finish the task made Bai Qifeng smirk inwardly. Greed, paranoia, jealousy, indifference, love, and lust, human beings are really easy to use. And speaking of human usage, it seems the loyal dog also came back to be used. Knowing Gao Hu was hiding behind the tree the entire time, Bai Qingfeng's performance was deliberately done to cue Gao Hu in on what was going on. Meanwhile, Gao Hu, who was still hiding behind the tree, was shocked to his core, hearing that his young master was no longer himself.